Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest Webex Developer webinar. My name is Phil Belanti. I'm from the Webex Developer Evangelism team. We're very excited about today's session. This one is Reusable Integrations Made Easy with the Integration Studio for Webex Connect. I'm going to have our presenters, Sam and Martin, introduce themselves when we get to the main presentation. But we will be utilizing Slido for audience Q&A. You can find the Slido right inside the Webex app for this webinar, or you can participate from your mobile device by scanning the QR code here. So I will need another few moments to allow people to do that if that's the way they want to join, but otherwise you can use this Slido app that's embedded inside the Webex app. But before we get to the main presentation, I just want to call out some February news for Webex developers. And I'll try to get through this quickly because I know we have a pretty packed presentation. But leading off is the Webex Developer Beta Program that has some great early access features that you'll want to start testing out. You can use that QR code to take you right to the developer beta portal. So if you want to get started, you can use that QR code or that URL at the bottom there. But first is inside the beta is the Webex Click to Call, which is a brand new feature provided through the Web Calling SDK. With Click to Call apps for Webex Calling, enterprises can empower their customers to do things like connect with their support desk or their sales team, just by a click of a button. So, really just removes the hassle of having to manually dial important phone numbers that are shown on a website, on a phone. So it enables like instant interactions right inside the browser. The call can be done right inside there. Next is AI Assistant for Webex developers. And this is a chat interface powered by a large language model, LLM, to assist users to find the right Webex developer tools and generate working code to aid in building integrations. So this AI assistant has extensive knowledge of the Webex developer platform, and that's really what truly separates it from other various GPT chatbots. And coming very soon to the beta program, perhaps this week, maybe, is a preview of the new Converged Webex Developer Portal. And this combines resources for both the Webex Suite and Webex Contact Center platforms. So today, they're two separate portals for Contact Center and Webex Suite. So it really poses a challenge for developers who are interested in building an integration for the Webex Suite and the Webex Contact Center. Now everything is put together inside one portal. The Converged portal has an updated layout and navigation. It makes it real easy for developers to find all the different services inside Webex Suite and Contact Center. It's a vastly improved experience all the way around. So we're really excited about getting that started. So we encourage everyone to join the developer beta program, get early access to these great new features. And there's also been some interesting things recently announced for Webex Contact Center administrators. And you can use that QR code next to that one to learn a little bit more about all the things that are there. But I just want to highlight a few of them that are listed inside that page. First is the new list and publish APIs, and that's for programmatic flow management. These new APIs supplement the existing import and export APIs for flows and subflows, but it enables the full automation of flow management for both new and migrating contact center organizations. And next is a new update for contact center users in the United States who can now request 10 DLC and WhatsApp numbers and directly through Webex Connect, as a self-service feature. So previously those were not available, and now this has been released for users in the United States. And last but not least in this section is the Cisco AI Assistant for Contact Center. And this AI Assistant is to enhance efficiency and elevate customer satisfaction inside a contact center. So it has a rich set of functionality to generate insightful call summaries. It does topic analytics. It does agent well-being assessments and automatic CSAT. So just another great AI tool that's built specifically for Webex Contact Center. But before I conclude the news here for this month, I just want to make special mention that our registrations are now open for our next developer webinar in March. And that topic is on Webex Instant Connect. It's going to be a really, interesting topic about getting instant meetings that you don't need even an account for. You can visit our webinars page to sign up for that one. I think that's going to be in March 25th. And with that, that's the news. I'm going to hand it over to Sam Watson to kick off our main presentation. So Sam, please take it away.
Thanks for that, Phil. Hi all, and welcome to the latest Webex Customer Experience Developer Webinar. Reusable integrations made easy with the Integration Studio for Webex Connect. I'm Sam Watson, I'm a Product Marketing Manager at Webex, focusing on the Customer Experience portfolio. And I've been working with CX and CPaaS technologies for over 10 plus years, working across various products like Webex Connect, new channels such as RCS, and new technologies like AI agents. And in this webinar, I'm going to be joined by Martin Haddock. Martin, do you want to take a minute to introduce yourself?
Yep. Hey guys, my name is Martin Haddock. I'm a solution architect here at Cisco Webex. I've been with the company for over 3 years now, kind of specializing in Webex Connect and CPaaS.
Cheers for that, Martin. So the purpose of this webinar is to introduce you to our new Integration Studio, which is a new low-code, it's an upcoming low-code self-serve platform for managing, API integrations on Webex Connect. So the agenda, and so what we'll do for the agenda for this webinar, I'll give a high-level overview of the current integration challenges that our partner face, how we're solving that with the Integration Studio. Before we get to probably what you most want to see, which is a live demo of the studio, which will be delivered by Martin, and then we'll wrap up with how to join our beta program and some Q&A as well. So to get started and just to set the scene a little, how are partners currently building customer experience solutions with Webex Connect? Firstly, they're starting with their integrations ecosystem, which is made up of all the APIs into the systems and applications that their customers most utilize, as well as APIs that connect into their own proprietary systems. And they're exposing these systems and applications on Webex Connect through its flexible integration framework. And these systems, are wide-ranging, with common examples being our CRM, CDP platforms, appointment scheduling systems, workforce optimization systems. And although Webex Connect supports multiple types of integrations, ultimately, if a system or application offers a REST or a SOAP API, Webex Connect can integrate with it to push data to that system or pull data from that system. So what partners are doing is they're taking these integration APIs, exposing them on Webex Connect, and then using the flow builder to design various vertical and horizontal solutions for their customers, from campaigns and purchasing to appointment management solutions, billing and debt collection solutions, AI agents and surveys. And by this approach, by using their integration APIs and the flow builder, they're able to capitalize on the demand for CPaaS and customer experience solutions, unlocking new revenue streams, and enhancing their brand stickiness with their customers by being able to offer more value to those customers. Now, when it comes to the flow builder, integrations are used by the Webex Connect flow builder in a couple of ways. And the first way is as events, which is events are configured using the custom event API, and they notify Webex Connect of events in a business system, which in turn triggers a flow or a rule on the platform. And these events can be really wide-ranging, but a typical example could be when a customer's details have been added to it, a new customer has been added to a CRM system. That can trigger a welcome journey flow that will onboard the customer and introduce that customer to your business. Another type of event when flows can be triggered are by inbound customer actions on channels. Now, for example, if a customer sends a message via SMS, that could trigger a flow which brings an AI agent into that chat to take over that interaction and allow the customer to self-serve. So that's two ways that an integration can be used as events to trigger flows. The second way integrations can be used within the flow builder are as nodes that perform an action. And this is where you are making an API call to a system to pull or push data to that system to fulfill a certain action. For example, on the screen in front of you right here, you're seeing we're integrating with Zoho CRM to check the customer details, to pull information from that system so we can personalize the message that we send to them. It's an example of an appointment reminder flow. So for example, when we ask the customer, do you want to confirm, reschedule, or cancel your appointment? If they click reschedule, we need to look up in Calendly when the next available dates are and communicate that back to the customer. So here's two examples of how integrations are used within the flow, not to trigger it, but to pull data from that system, manipulate that data, and then use it to power the interaction and to take the next step. Now, as a partner developer, the challenge that you have with building and managing integrations is that, for one integration and one customer, Webex Connect customer tenant, you have to add the integration to Webex Connect and configure the rules of how that can be used. You need to configure how that integration can be used as nodes and events, setting the URL endpoints, the input fields, the output fields, the authentication level. You then need to, actually build the flow, dragging the nodes onto the canvas, configuring the nodes, join up all the business logic between the nodes, testing it, and then publishing it. And then once that's live, you then need to manage the integration. Do you need to update it? Is it working? Is it working as it should? How many times has the flow been executed, and how many times that integration be used? And you have to do that process for every integration for one Webex Connect tenant for a customer. And as a partner developer, as a partner developer, you have to repeat this process across all your customer tenants of Webex Connect. You have to go, and that puts a humongous strain on, developer time, effort, and resources. And it also it hinders the partner as well. It slows down the time to market for new solutions. It reduces their scalability. And ultimately, by managing integrations in silos, it makes it more complex and hinders the partner. And this challenge is ultimately caused by the type of integration nodes that a partner can currently use within Webex Connect to expose their integrations. The first type of node that it can be used is a HTTP node, which allows for the quick creation of API calls in the flow. This node can be copied and reused within the same flow and can be exported within the flow template as well, but it cannot be easily used across multiple Webex Connect tenants, and it offers limited functionality and authentication. The second option they have are custom nodes. And this is great when you want to create a reusable integration that can be used on the same tenant. So you can configure the integration once on a tenant and then reuse it across multiple flows. And it supports authentication as well. But the problem is that with these nodes is that they cannot be used across multiple tenants, and they cannot be exported when sharing flow templates as well. So, at Webex, we're ever committed to providing robust tools that enhance our partners' capabilities, and solve the challenge. And we want to solve the challenge of building and managing integrations for multiple customer tenants of Webex Connect, helping them to go live, helping to go to market quickly with new solutions, and ultimately capitalize on the demand for CPaaS and customer experience solutions. And with that, we're really excited to announce the beta availability of our Integration Studio, which is a central self-serve platform for building, managing, deploying, and monitoring proprietary or third-party API integrations on Webex Connect. And One of the biggest advantages for partner developers that the studio will give them is that integrations will only have to be built once and then can be easily reused across multiple Webex Connect tenants. So once a partner developer has added the integration to the studio, configured how it can be used as events or nodes, it can then be submitted for approval and signed off by the Webex team. Once that's done, that integration can be instantly switched on for customer tenants, for them to take that integration within the node palette and use that integration within their flows. In addition, partner developers could embed these integrations nodes into the flows that they create, creating a template for these solutions, and then exporting these flows that contain these integration nodes in to their customer tenants, accelerating the time to market for new solutions, reducing the amount of effort it requires to build integrations and deploy solutions. And this approach will help partner developers to work quicker and smarter through reusability, and it will help partners to scale with ease and accelerate speed to market of getting solutions live for their customers. Some other key features I'd like to highlight about the studio is that when an integration is ready, developers can publish, have access to one-click deployment across multiple data centers and regions. They'll be able to track in real time, how that integration is being used, seeing how many tenants that integration is live on, how many services that integration powers, the number of flow executions that are using that integration, the target audience, is it private or is it public, the category, and other key metrics. And then most importantly, the studio offers change management and version controls, which will allow developers to easily update each integration and roll those updates seamlessly across multiple Webex Connect customer tenants without impacting live services. So what we've covered there is from an operational angle of helping you to work quicker and smarter. So if that would be fantastic if you are a managed service provider, because as I said before, you'll be able to go live quicker with reusable integrations and flows. But another great opportunity that the studio provides to partners, it provides a way of showcasing and monetizing their solution expertise, their experience with integrations, and their proprietary functionality. Because as a partner, you know which systems your customers use the most and how they want to use them. So with the studio, what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to take the third-party public APIs, such as those offered by Salesforce, Zendesk, Agile CRM. You'll be able to take APIs that you may have limited access to or have private access to, such as Epic and Guidewire. And what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to add your brand to the integration. So what you can see in front of me is an example of a Zendesk node which a partner can own. So you can see that it says Zendesk, but you'll be able to put your partner, you'll be able to put your name there, you'll be able to say that you own it. You'll be able to say who it's provided by, you'll be able to provide links for customer support and any documentation that you have as well. So you'll be able to own the commercial relationship with your customers, that even though they are using the integrations of third-party public APIs or third-party private limited access APIs. So, as a partner, you could choose to simply say, here is an integration. We've turned it on for your tenant of Webex Connect. Go ahead and build the flow. But the other opportunity it will provide is as you build these integrations, you can also choose to wrap a managed service around the integration to unlock new revenue streams and to provide more value to that customer, to your customers. So this is an example of third-party and public APIs, and then you'll be able to do the same with your proprietary system APIs. Expose them to Webex customers, you'll be able to brand it, add your logo, describe the services it can power, and you'll be able to do this for all the different types of APIs that you offer. Because what you are able to do as a partner, you'll be able to create private integrations that are just for your customers, but what you'll also be able to do is to make integrations public and list them on the Webex App Hub for Webex customers and other partners to discover and use, fostering collaboration and helping other Webex customers to see, wow, that's how this partner's powering this integration, powering a new solution. Let's use it. So it's a great opportunity to drive awareness of your integration expertise and monetize your own APIs and third-party APIs as well. So a good example of that is Deep Medical, who is an early access partner to the Integration Studio beta program. And Deep Medical, offer an AI-powered tool that analyzes various data points to predict patient no-shows to healthcare appointments, which we know is a huge challenge for healthcare providers, costing millions of dollars every year. So what we were able to do with Deep Medical is we were able to build an integration that combines their AI tool, expose it and add it to Webex Connect, and design an appointment reminder flow that powers so that when the AI toolkit says, hey, that customer may not be able to attend their appointment, let's trigger this flow that notifies the customer that, hey, you have an upcoming appointment. Would you like to confirm, change, or cancel or rearrange that appointment? So that's the solution. That's a good example of how an integration can be combined with the Flow Builder to power a valuable solution for customers. And now Deep Medical, now that they've done that, they're now currently, they are selling that solution to their customers. They're marketing that solution on their website as a service called DM Connects. And this is just a great example of showcasing of what the Integration Studio allows you to do when it comes to showcasing your expertise, monetizing your APIs, and creating new services for your customers. So that's an overview, and with that, I'm going to pass over to the bit you've probably all been waiting for, which is the live demo of the Integration Studio.
Thanks, Sam. Let me share my screen. So hey guys, as Sam says, this is going to be the demo of Integration Studio. So if you can appreciate, there's quite a lot to cover in terms of the studio itself. So we're going to keep it fairly high level. What we're going to do today is we're going to build ourselves an integration. So we're going to build ourselves a node that's going to integrate with our coffee bar AI bot. And from that, we're going to import that into Webex Connect and be able to test that. So you should see kind of the end-to-end journey here is that to be able to show you how it works. So before we get into the studio itself, I just wanted to clarify some terminology that you're going to hear quite a lot on this call. So if in Integration Studio, we use nodes. So hopefully anyone familiar with Webex Connect will be familiar with nodes. So these are your kind of plug and play elements in Webex Connect to be able to, say, send an SMS, do decision branches, evaluations, all those kind of things. So what Integration Studio is doing is allowing us the ability to create nodes to be able to be used in Flow Builder. So what are nodes? So a node is essentially a collection of API requests, which are referred to as methods. So a method is an API request. A node is a collection of methods. So each node must have at least one method. So if we look at how we're doing this within the Epic nodes, we have, say, an appointment node with your methods to be able to change and update appointments, and then you have a patient node, which is for creating patients, looking up patient details, etc., etc. In both of those, we have variables, which hopefully you're all familiar with, but they are pretty much what they say on the tin. They're just dynamic or static variables that we use in each call. Okay, just wanted to clarify that because you're going to hear me say node about 100 more times yet. Okay, so let's get into the studio itself. So the main studio is, you have kind of two options at the top. The first one just being your team. So this is just where you add users. Quite basic, really. You say you can add a user, just put their email in. There's two roles. So your developer is your kind of sysadmin role. Your collaborator is more of like a tester role or kind of admin-y role. So if you need more details on that, this ties nicely into the link to the documentation. So we have documentation on here, which can give you the kind of details on all of that. but fairly basic in terms of creating users. The main meat of this is your integrations tab. So within here, you'll have any published integrations. So once you've published anything, you'll see it in here. You can see the versioning, all that kind of thing. This is our staging environment. So there's no published integrations on here. This is a tenant that we were using for Cisco Live recently and for the lab sessions there. So we do have a lot of drafts on here. So your drafts are the integrations that you're working on, anything that's in UAT that's not been published yet. So you can see on here, you can have as many integrations as you like. To add a new integration, it's quite straightforward. You just click add integration, give it a name, a description, upload a logo. The key bit on here is whether you want it as public or private. So public would mean it's available for any Webex Connect customers. Private is more if you're doing this for your own tenants. I should note on that, if you make it public, it doesn't mean that anybody could just use it. It just means it is available to be requested. So there's still that kind of request and approval process that you'd have to go through there. But that's the difference between those. You've got your kind of standard things, your website, your contact details, as Sam mentioned, so support contacts, business contacts, those kind of things for when you push this out, if somebody needs to get in touch with you. So once you've created an integration, there's a few kind of basic bits on here. So I'm going to use one that we've already built, just because I say this is already kind of synced to a tenant and it's just easier for me to demo for speed. So we're going to use this one that we've already built here. So a few bits to kind of cover before we get into an actual build on this. So there is some documentation that you need to add to each of your integrations. So there's a scope document, there's a user guide, and your data security and privacy policy. So for the scope document, we have a template here that you can follow. And say it's just got your kind of standard stuff on here in terms of detail and what the integration does. Your user guide is going to be more about how you configure this. Again, this is going to depend on what your integration is. If this is an internal one, you may not need to have too much detail on there. Depends how simple or complex your integration is. And your data security and privacy policy is going to be just your company one. I say you just need to link that into there as well. Okay, another thing that I'm going to cover a couple of things that we're not actually using in here, but are quite important. So there is the concept of system variables. So if you are using something for your integration, so an integration could just be one node or it could be multiple nodes. So if we think about that example I gave you before of Epic would be the integration, then you have different nodes in there. But you may have variables that are used across all your nodes. So for example, like, I don't know, a reporting URL or username and password, which are consistent across all of your integrations. So you may want to add that as a system variable. One thing that you can do here is you can define the variable type. So if you have something that's going to be the same for every client, you can use that as an environmental variable. Whereas say you have something like a client key or something that you want to use as a variable, you can set it as a tenant variable. So that can be defined as each tenant that you distribute it to. The other thing that's going to be, we're not going to be using for our little demo is going to be authentication, but obviously this is a big piece. So I'm not going to get too bogged down in it, but it's got your kind of standard authentication methods here. So your basic auth, OAuth 2. I mean, anyone who's been familiar with Webex Connect, it's the kind of same setup here as you'd be familiar with in Webex Connect. So being able to, do refresh tokens, all that kind of stuff in here. Once you've configured those auth methods, you kind of can use them within your nodes and reuse it across anything in your integration. The other bit I'm going to skip over a little bit is events. So Sam gave a good example of how events can work. This is your kind of inbound triggers. This is where you can set those up. You can add events to be able to do inbound routing or webhooks or async calls. If this actually loads for me. This is always the way with live demos. Okay, let me try that again. So yeah, in events, I say you can do either an inbound event or an asynchronous event. I say you can define that to be used on a start node within rules or as a receive node to restart calls. So I say I'm not going to go into that too much. I say you can get more details on that if needs be. It's all in the documentation that we touched on a moment ago. Okay, but what we are going to do today is we're going to use nodes. So as I mentioned before, the node is what you would actually publish on, well, you would publish events as well, but primarily nodes would be what you can publish to a tenant. So we're going to create a node for our coffee bar. So anybody who's been to one of our Cisco events will hopefully have seen our Webex coffee bar. So this is a coffee bar that's using an AI chatbot. So you can order a coffee by your mobile phone. That will send it through to our baristas. They will then make a coffee for you. So for the purpose of the demo, we're going to be using our coffee bar bot, our demo bot. It's just a nice bot to be able to integrate with, so we can send it a message, it will send us a message back, and we can build a flow out of it. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to create a node, and we're going to call it Martin's coffee bot. Just give it a quick description. So AI coffee bot for demo. This output prefix variable is what you kind of set for as a unique identifier. This is set at integration level. Don't really need that too much. This is what I mentioned earlier in terms of your authentication. So we've not got any auth set, but if you did have like your authentication methods, you can just select those here. So we're going to select that as no auth. And if you need to do any kind of custom node UI, you can also add that here. Let's say this is going to be quite a basic node. So we're going to add that here. And you can see we now have a node. So we've got Martin's coffee bot as a node, and we have no methods assigned to it. So we need to add a method. So we need to add our API call in here. So we're going to add a method. And this method is going to be to send a message to the bot. So we're going to be send message to bot as the method name. Connection and timeouts, just standard. You know, what you want to, how long you want to wait before considering it a timeout. So we're going to do 10 seconds for that, 10,000 milliseconds on each. Your HTTP methods are just your standard REST API calls here. So we're going to be doing a post, and we're going to be hitting our coffee bar endpoint, which I'm going to swing in here. You can use variables in here as well. So if you have any variables in your URL, you can add them in just using the standard $ and brackets type. And you say just do the parse variable. So we're not using that on here, so we're happy with that. It's just a static URL. So we've got our API call. We now need to define what we're actually sending in it. So this is in the define input variable section. So what we're going to do, we're going to expand that here. Again, you can do custom UIs and the likes using JavaScript if you like. I say we're not doing anything that fancy on here, so we're just using the default. We are going to encode values to UTF-8 just to avoid any dodgy characters. URL parameters is where you can do query strings. We're not doing that. We're actually using a request body, so we don't need to add anything in there. We do need a HTTP header though, so we're going to add a header to our request, and this is just a standard content type just to advise what we're actually sending. So this can be static, dynamic, or a system variable. So in this case, it's just static, and we're just saying we're sending application JSON. We don't need any help text on here because I say it's a static variable. Nobody needs to change this or do anything with it. So we keep that as null. And then we click add variable. So you can see now we've got our header in the list below. Now we just need to add our request body. So you can add this in multiple ways. So similar to most systems, you can use text, JSON, XML, or form. So we're going to be using JSON. You can just paste in the body of your request here, and kind of, if you use this kind of format in for variables, so we've got bot message and our thread ID as variables, and we've got agent ID as static, and you can click on this format and add variables to bring that through. There is a little bug on this, unfortunately, at the minute, but you guys won't ever see that, so that should be fixed by the time any of you get your hands on it, but we just need to pass that twice. So what we've got here, you can see it's pulled through my thread ID, it's pulled through my bot message as variables to use in this flow. So we need to configure them now. So by default, they're just kind of static with nothing in there. So as you can see, it's prompted me to configure these. So the thread ID that we're sending to the bot, this is like the session ID. So this is what we use to say, this is the same session. You know, it's not a new conversation each time. This is how we kind of maintain the same conversation. So this is going to be a dynamic variable in the fact that it's going to change on every request, or potentially change on every request. We'll need to provide it on every request. So we're just going to call it the same thing. So thread ID. We're going to need that on every request, so we're going to mark it as mandatory, and this help text is optional, but I'm just going to put like unique ID for session. Your input types, so you can have either text box, date and time, or a drop down. So if you set a drop down, you can just add the values that are available there. We're just using text box. You can also use regex to make sure that it's a certain format. You know, if you wanted it to be a number or a date or whatever you want in there, you can use that regex validation to enforce that. But for us here, we just want thread ID dynamic and as a text box, so we're going to update that. We can see now that has been updated here, and we just need to do the same thing for our bot message. So again, this is going to be a dynamic variable. This is the message that we send to the bot. So we're going to be sending this on every request. Again, just going to use the same key name for the name. And I'm going to mark that as mandatory. And I'll just put a help text of this is the message for the bot. Oops. Again, text box, no regex on this, quite a straightforward field. Okay, so what have we got so far? We've got our node, we've got our methods with our API request and our body and our input variables. We just need to set the output now. So if we go down to our define output section, again, you can format this doing the parse variables. Again, you've got the different formats available. You can do synchronous or async if needs be. For this, we're just getting a synchronous API call. I'm not going to parse this one. I'm just going to add my variable. So this is what we want to get out of our bot. So we're sending a message to the bot. This is what we're getting back from the bot. So I'm just going to call it bot response. We're going to be looking in the body of the request. So when we get a response back from the bot, we're going to look in the body of the request, and we're going to be looking for this $.response. So that's just something unique to this this bot, which is in the body of the response, we're looking for the path of $.response. That's where our bot is going to respond to. We can set this as mandatory. We should get a response on every call. We don't really need to, but for the purpose of this, we will. And we're not going to use any debug keys on this. So we're going to add that output variable. So that's our output of the bot. We now just need to determine how we determine a success or a failure of this call. So when we make that API request, how do we know if it's a success or a failure? And this determines the outcome branches when we put this into Connect. So for the success response, we're just going to add a success outcome, simply call it success. We're going to look at the HTTP status. So when we make an API request, we should be getting a HTTP status of 200 back. So we're basically saying if we get a 200 response back, we're considering it a success. So we'll add that as a node outcome. And we just need to add an error outcome as well. So again, just calling this error. Again, looking at HTTP status. If we know that 200 is a success, then we're going to say if it doesn't equal 200, then it must be an error. So we'll add that in as well. Okay, so we're not going to add a timeout. We're going to say this should be fine. But we have now defined our method. So we've got an API request, we've got our inputs, we've got our outputs. We should be able to submit this now. And you can see we have Martin's Coffee Bot as the node with send message to bot as our method. So we should be all good, but we can see here we've not tested this yet. So we want to be able to push this to our UAT tenant, but first we need to test it. So we can click back into the node, into the method, sorry, and we go down to this test method to test the method. So you can either use a test data profile or instant test data. I'll show you this in a moment. So what we're going to do is going to run an instant test. And this is where you can start to play around with what you've built. So you can see here, we have our method, which is what we called send message to bot. We've got our thread ID with our help text and our bot message variables here. So I'm just going to add a unique variable for thread ID, and then for the bot message, I'm just going to say hello to our bot. So what we can do now, we can test that. So this is going to send that API request. So it'll show you your kind of raw response here. So you can see this is the payload that we're getting back from the bot. And if you go to this output variables and node outcome, you can see this is where it's got the bot response. So this is the variable that we defined, and this is looking for that $.response, which relates to this. And you can see we're getting a 200 response back, so the node outcome is a success. So we're looking good. The last step we need to do here is just to save that as a test data profile. So it's just something you need to do for to satisfy before promoting to UAT, but it's also quite useful. So I'm going to save this as an admin profile, and what that enables me to do then is if I came back into this at a later date and I wanted to test that, I can use that test data profile and it'll already have my variables populated, and I can just kind of trigger it again quite easily. It may not seem very useful when you just have two basic variables, but trust me, when you have a whole heap of variables, it's very much a time saver and a life saver. Okay, so we've tested our bot. We should now be able to push this to our UAT tenant. So you can see it's now been successfully tested. We're going to come back out to this main screen here. We can validate this integration. You can see it has its documentation provided. We've got our system variables. We're not using auth, but it's satisfied it because it's not in use, it's not tested, and our node has got the green tick because we've tested it. So what we can do now, we can push this to our UAT tenant. So when you get the integration studio, you will also be provisioned a Webex Connect tenant that is connected to it, so your UAT tenant. So this has already kind of been synced up, so I'm just going to push this to our test tenant. So I'll just republish to UAT, and what it's going to do is going to push that node onto our tenant. So you can see that's been published. We can now jump onto our Webex Connect tenant. I've already got a template flow to use here just to speed this process up because we're kind of against the clock. So I'm going to upload a flow, copy that template flow. And I'm just going to call it Martin test flow. So they should import that template, which is a very basic flow, which is going to receive a message from WhatsApp. And that message is then going to be sent to our bots. We can then respond to the bot. I'm Not sure why that's taking a moment. Might have need me to log back in. Yep. So let me try that again. So yeah, it's going to be a very basic flow just to be able to send a message to our bot, and that relay to us on WhatsApp. So at the end of this, we're going to be able to test this as well. So this is the trigger for WhatsApp. So it's saying when we get an incoming message on WhatsApp, if it contains, and we're just going to use the word testing, then to trigger this flow. What we're also doing here, we've got some variables for our thread ID and our bot message. So we're just setting the thread ID to be the transaction ID of this flow. We've got our bot message that we're triggering just to say hello on the initial message because we're kind of triggering it with our name. Okay, we've got a little templated flow already built here, but I'm going to delete this node. Now that we've synced this up, so this is your kind of nodes in the Webex Connect, as I mentioned. And what we should see here is our coffee bar node. If I can remember what I call it, that was the one. Martin's coffee bot. So what I can do, I can just drag that in. I can go into here. You can see, similar to the test we did a moment ago, you've got your method here. You've got your thread ID, bot message variables, which we can quickly map to the ones we have set in the flow. And then we just need to define our output. So this is the input of the node. And then in the transition actions is going to be where we set our output. So we're going to say when we leave this node, we want to send our bot response to be the response from this node. So we're configuring it to pass in the thread ID bot message, and then we're getting the bot response when we come out of it. Okay, quite straightforward. Just going to hook this back up to the flow. So we're getting a message, we're sending that to the bot. That bot message is going to relay to us in this node to send us the bot response. Then we're going to listen for a response back from us on WhatsApp, and we're going to set that to be the bot message. Sorry, on the receive node, we're going to send that to be the bot message, and then we're going to send that back to the bot. So really quite a straightforward flow there. I'm going to save this and put this live. And we're going to give that a moment to trigger. And what we can do now, and I say you can test this as well if you like at home, is we're going to trigger this flow via WhatsApp. So the keyword there was this testing. So if we open up this here, if you scan this QR code, say it may need a second to sync, kind of running against this. In fact, let me share my screen as well. Sorry. Okay, so I've just scanned that QR code and take you to this screen. So I'm just going to trigger this with testing. And this should, if the demo gods are on my side, trigger the flow and interact with our bot. So you can see now it's hit our coffee bar bot, and I could say, I'd like a coffee, please. And you've got that loop. So it's saying the message I send back will then trigger the bot again. And again, you can kind of ask, what you want. I'll say a latte. So that's it in a nutshell. I say it's quite a lot to cover in that time. So you can scan that if you like to mess around with it yourself. But hopefully that gives you a little flavor of how quickly we can kind of spin up integrations, how you can publish them to your environments, how it works in terms of the plug and play elements in Webex Connect. And yeah, hopefully gives you a taste of what you can do with this. And with that, I will pass back to Sam.
Thanks for that, Martin. It's a really great example, like I said, of how quickly you can configure an integration and then publish that integration to a Webex Connect tenant, whether that be your own or whether that be a customer's. So that's a fantastic example. Okay, so just to wrap up this webinar, we are looking for partners to join our Integration Studio beta program. And if you're a partner who's interested in talking to us more about how you can potentially leverage the Integration Studio, how you can leverage Webex Connect, what sort of use cases that you might be able to power, sign up to the beta program, and then if you are accepted, be able to start building reusable integration nodes that will help you to go live quicker. You'll be able to receive a bit more personalized support, to successfully publish your first integrations, and you'll be some of the first partners to use the studio and potentially publish and promote your integrations on the Webex App Hub. And not only that, you'll be able to provide us feedback on the studio to help us shape the studio as it moves forward towards GA. So I'll just leave that on the screen for a moment to give you all a chance to scan the QR code. And I also believe there is a link being posted in the chat as well. So with that, I think we've come to the end of our webinar. If there's any chance for Q&A, we can do that now.
Okay, great. Thank you, Sam and Martin. That was a great presentation and demo. Super insightful. There was only 2 questions that came in. One of them was pertinent to the material. It was answered inside there, but I don't know if you wanted to just expand a little. And the question was, can integrations be public, like Salesforce.com, which you then customize for your tenant?
Yeah, if you've marked that integration as public, it will be. Like I said, you'll be like I mentioned earlier in the webinar, you'll be able to take that integration, configure it via the studio, choose whether or not you want it to be private or public, and then if it is public, it then can be it can be accessible by any Webex Connect customer tenant.
Fantastic. And there was another question around, where can they find previous, webinar recordings? When it comes to all of these series of webinars, which includes some Webex Connect topics, you can find those over at a developer portal, developer.webex.com/webinars. But if you want to look for specific content on Webex Connect, you can also go directly to their developer portal. That's developer.cisco.com/Webex-Connect. And that's where you can find all the the developer content specifically for Webex Connect. And
I was going to say, yeah, that's a great link to use, because that only not has links to our documentation, but you're able to find links to labs that will help you build your first flows, and you'll also provide a link to the sandbox, which is our a way of trying Webex Connect without having access to a full tenant. So it's a great link to use.
Yep, I know developers love getting hands-on and getting all the tools to be able to do that. It's fantastic. So it looks like that's about it for today's session. This session has been recorded, so it's going to be up on our webinars page within the next few days or so. So just be on the lookout for that if you want to pass that along to any of your colleagues or friends that want to check this one out. And you can always reach out to any of us if you ever have any questions that weren't answered here today. And with that, this concludes our session. Thank you again for joining. Have a great day.
Thank you all.